Claire Hockey, to be followed by Graham Simpson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Despite the best attempts of some populist parties and some sections of our press in trying to frame public opinion against immigration, it's heartening that we as politicians have united today to talk up the positives of immigration rather than build upon the anti-migrant rhetoric which seems to be ever more prevalent. The progressive narrative of today's debate is entirely understandable. There can be few of us in this chamber who are not descendants of migrants ourselves. Indeed, I can trace my own ancestry back to both Ireland and to Russia. Presiding Officer, Scotland and the wider UK, for that matter, have benefited massively from immigration. Migrants originating from within the EU and out with are making a vital contribution to our economy, to our culture, and they're ensuring that we have the workers to meet the needs of our businesses and our public sector. In my own constituency of Rutherglen, we're fortunate to have friends and neighbours from across the globe, from Poland, Bangladesh, the Philippines, Ireland, Germany and Italy, to name but a few. However, our EU migrant workforce is under severe threat with Brexit and the associated curtailment on freedom of movement. The economic impact of Brexit-driven reduction in migration is estimated to result in a decline in government revenue of 3.5% in Scotland, but by 2.7% in the rest of the UK. And from these figures, we can conclude that Brexit will disproportionately affect Scotland. Therefore, one could argue we require a different arrangement to protect our economy, which is so heavily reliant on inward migration. Presiding Officer, at this point, I wish to refer members to my entry in the Register of Interest in that I am a registered mental health nurse and currently hold an honorary contract with NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde. And through my profession, I know firsthand how my colleagues in mental health and the workers in our hospitals and A&E services and those in our GP surgeries all play a vital role in supporting the health needs of our population. But sadly, the UK Government's position, or lack thereof, on guaranteeing EU citizens' rights is already having a detrimental impact on flows of inward migration, especially on our NHS. No matter what Ruth Davidson may have said on television at the weekend, no deal has yet been struck on securing these rights. Figures collated by the Nursing and Midwifery Council show that the number of new nursing applications from the EU fell by 96% since the Brexit vote in 2016, from 1,304 in July 2016 to a mere 46 in April 2017. And this is before we begin to take into account the effect of ending freedom of movement when we leave the EU. The Tories are quick to argue that an exodus of EU health workers is yet to take place. However, I would remind them that neither has Brexit. We must maintain inward migration to Scotland, including the existing free movement with our EU neighbours, to help increase Scotland's population and to keep our NHS from reaching crisis point. As Janet Davis, the Chief Executive and General Secretary of the Royal College of Nursing, said, if there is a Brexit cliff edge in migration, it will be the NHS going over it. Presiding Officer, while immigration policy remains reserved, the Scottish Government will advocate for an attempt to influence change in the UK migration system to ensure Scotland's needs are met and as far as they can be within UK policy. For example, as we've heard, the Scottish Government will advocate the reintroduction of the post-study work visa, the scrapping of the arbitrary net migration target, and the ending the scandal and heartbreak of Skype families by improving the rights of people in Scotland to bring close family members into the country with them. These changes at UK level would greatly benefit Scotland. However, there's an overwhelming case for the Scottish Government to be given the power to tailor its own immigration policy. The UK Government's one-size-fits-all approach to migration is no longer appropriate. Scotland is a different country with different needs, so it's time for a different approach. Expert after expert, study after study, committee after committee, we are consistently told of the benefits of Scotland having its own distinct immigration policy. From this Parliament's own Culture, Tourism, Europe and External Relations Committee and the subsequent report by Dr Eve Hepburn to the UK Parliament's Scottish Affairs Committee, the evidence shows that reforming our immigration system would better reflect the diverse makeup of the different parts of the UK. Presiding Officer, it's clear the need to address disparities between the UK-wide immigration system and the different labour and skills shortages in the constituent parts of the UK will become even more pressing after Brexit. If the Tory government won't accept our specific population needs, and if they do not make the necessary changes to address these needs, then they should think about giving these powers to the Scottish SNP government, who will.